There's a strange moment when you realize the life you're living might not be the one your body was built for. Just stay with that thought for a moment. Nothing dramatic happened. Nothing broke overnight. It simply drifted, quietly, until most of us forgot what was lost. There is a particular kind of unease that comes with this realization. Not fear. Don't panic. But a low, steady sense that something fundamental has slipped out of alignment. You can feel it in the air you breathe indoors. In this way, rooms feel sealed rather than alive. In the fatigue that lingers even after rest. We are surrounded by comfort, yet strangely deprived of ease. And when we look backward, past the glow of screens, past the hum of machines, we encounter a world that should not make sense to us at all. Homes with no electricity, no air filters, no climate control. And yet, in many ways, they were healthier places to live. Modern life tells a very specific story about progress. It says health comes from control, from sealing the outside world away, from regulating temperature, humidity, and airflow until variability disappears. We are taught that safety means isolation, that nature is something to be managed, filtered, neutralized. Air must be purified. Homes must be sealed. Freshness must be manufactured. The narrative is reassuring. It promises predictability, consistency, freedom from discomfort. And yet, within this controlled environment, something subtle has changed. We spend more time indoors than any humans in history. We breathe recycled air for hours at a time. We live in spaces designed for efficiency, not biology. The assumption is that newer is better, that complexity equals improvement, that past generations endured conditions we have finally escaped. But when we examine the physical structures they lived in, and the rhythms that shape those structures, the story becomes far less simple. A medieval home was not a sealed container. It was a breathing organism. Walls were built from stone, timber, wattle, and daub, materials that absorbed moisture and released it slowly. Floors were often earthen or stone, cool in summer, stable in winter. Roofs allowed heat and smoke to rise and escape. At the center of most homes was the hearth. Not just a place for cooking, but a thermal engine. Smoke did not vanish entirely. It drifted upward, coating beams with a thin layer of creosote, an antimicrobial substance that discouraged insects and mold. This was not accidental. It was learned knowledge. Windows were small, not to trap air, but to manage heat loss. Doors were open daily. Animals often lived adjacent to human spaces, contributing warmth and microbial diversity. And perhaps most importantly, these homes were not occupied continuously. People worked outdoors. They moved between fields, forests, workshops, and homes. Indoor air was constantly refreshed by human movement and daily routines. Even in towns, narrow streets funneled wind. Courtyards allowed light and circulation. Buildings leaned toward each other, creating microclimates rather than sealed boxes. In monasteries, such as those governed by the rule of the Benedictine order, architecture was deliberately designed around airflow, light, and seasonal rhythm. Cloisters were open to the sky. Dormitories were unheated. The body adapted. Comfort was not eliminated. It was recalibrated. Early American settlers inherited much of this knowledge. Colonial homes were drafty by modern standards. But those drafts prevented stagnation. Fireplaces burned nearly year-round, not just for warmth, but for cooking, drying, and sanitation. Windows were opened even in cold weather. Bedding was aired daily. Walls were lime-washed, a simple mixture of lime and water that created an alkaline surface hostile to bacteria and mold. This practice alone did more for indoor health than most modern sprays. Homes were cleaned with vinegar, ash, and boiling water. Sunlight was invited inside whenever possible. There was no illusion of separation from the environment. The weather felt. Seasons were lived inside the body, not overridden by machines. The human body evolved in fluctuating conditions. Temperature variation trains blood vessels to respond efficiently. Air movement keeps respiratory systems resilient. Exposure to diverse microbes teaches the immune system discernment rather than panic. Indoor environments that are too stable create a paradox. They reduce immediate discomfort but weaken long-term adaptability. When air is constantly filtered and recirculated, microbial diversity drops. When humidity is artificially flattened, mucous membranes dry out. When temperature never changes, metabolic flexibility declines. The gut, the lungs, and the skin are not separate systems. They are interfaces. They expect interaction with the world. Medieval and early modern homes did not sterilize life. They moderated it. Soot was present, but so was airflow. Bacteria existed, but so did competition. The result was not perfect, but balance. If this is changing how you see food, let the algorithm know by liking this video. The shift began quietly. Coal replaced wood, then oil, then electricity. Heating became centralized. Fireplaces disappeared. Windows were sealed. The goal was efficiency, control, standardization. Homes became machines for living rather than environments for adaptation. Air conditioning was hailed as a triumph, and in many ways, it was. It saved lives in extreme heat. It enabled dense cities. But it also taught us to fear natural variation. We stopped opening windows. We stopped tolerating seasonal discomfort. We stopped noticing the air at all. The indoor environment became invisible and biologically thin. This is not about blame. It is about mismatches. Bodies built for movement live in chairs. Lungs built for fresh air breathe conditioned streams. Skin designed for sunlight lives under LEDs. The result is subtle. Low-grade inflammation. Persistent fatigue. A sense of restlessness without a clear cause. The body is not broken. It is confusing. It receives signals that do not align with its expectations. The past does not offer blueprints. It offers patterns. Open windows daily, even in winter. Allow temperature to vary within reason. Invite sunlight inside. Use natural materials where possible. Wood, stone, linen. Let air move. Spend time outdoors not as exercise, but as exposure. These are not trends. They are reminders. The medieval home was not romantic. It was practical, adaptive, forgiving. It did not attempt to perfect life. It supported it. Modern homes can learn from this, not by abandoning technology, but by remembering biology. Health does not come from sealing ourselves away. It comes from learning how to live in a relationship with the world again. If you want to keep exploring the truths modern life forgot, subscribe and stay with us.